Hi, it's Dr. Phoenix. Today I'd like to talk to you about blood groups and particularly the ABO and Rh systems. These two systems are by far and away the most common of the blood type systems. There are others. In fact, there's about 30 other different blood groupings, but we're going to focus our attention on the two most common blood type systems, the ABO and the Rh systems. Now, the ABO system results in four different possible blood types: type A, type B, type AB, and type O. Now, what determines whether a person is one of these blood types is dependent on whether or not they have certain antigens on the surface of their red blood cells. For instance, on the surface of red blood cells, there could be A antigens, and we have these represented by the little blue triangles on the surface of the red blood cells. So if the red blood cells of an individual have these antigens, then they would have type A blood. Some individuals have a different antigen. We call this the B antigen, and this would result in them having type B blood. Some individuals will have both of these antigens, and therefore they have type AB blood. And other individuals have neither of these antigens, which would result in them having what's known as type O blood. So how are these blood types acquired? Obviously, just like other traits, they are given to us by our parents, and one parent will give us one allele, another parent will give us a second allele, and as with most traits, they are controlled by two alleles. So a person that has type A blood could have gotten a type A dominant allele from mom and a type A dominant allele from dad, which would give them type A blood. There's a second way that somebody could have type A blood, and that would be if they received a type A dominant allele from one parent and a recessive allele for nothing from the other parent. Obviously, since type A is dominant, this would also result in type A blood. Likewise with type B blood, if both parents gave the B allele, the individual would have type B blood. Or if one parent gave the B allele and the other gave the recessive allele for nothing, for no antigen, then this individual would have type B blood as well. If one parent gave the dominant A allele and the other parent gave the dominant B allele, then this is the individual with type AB blood. This is an example of codominance, where both alleles express themselves. And it's also possible that one parent could give their child the recessive allele for no antigen, and likewise for the other parent, which would result in the child having type O blood, which means there would be no antigens on the red blood cell surface at all. This is also an example of multiple alleles. As you can see, there are three different alleles in the human blood ABO blood typing system: an allele for a dominant A, a dominant B, and a recessive allele for that codes for no antigen at all. So what would happen if we have a mom with type A blood and a dad with type B blood? What are the possible genotypes of the offspring, and what are the possible phenotypes? In fact, could a type A mom and a type B dad, for instance, have a child that's type O? Well, we can do a simple Punnett square, and what we don't know if mom or dad are homozygous for type A or type B, or are they heterozygous? Well, if we assume that they're heterozygous, then we can see that they could have a child that's AB, they could have a child that's B, a child that's type A, or a child that's type O. So a type A mom and a type B dad if they're both heterozygous, could have a child that is type O. Okay, so we've seen that there are antigens on the surface of red blood cells that determine our blood type. Blood type A has the A antigen on the cell membranes of their red blood cells. Not only do they have antigens in their blood, but they also have antibodies. Antibodies are proteins that attack specific antigens, and in the blood typing system, we have the opposite antibodies as the antigens that we have. It wouldn't make any sense for us to have the same antibodies as we have antigens, because then those antibodies would attack our own blood. So these antibodies, which are shaped like this, they're Y-shaped protein molecules, and here is the active site. There's a little square active site, and you can see the antigen is a triangle, so they will not fit. And so these antibodies will not attack its own blood. Here we have type B blood, and as you can probably imagine now, this individual would have the opposite antibodies, so they would have A antibodies. Again, you can see the active site for the A antibodies is a triangle, whereas the antigens are squares, and therefore they will not fit and they will not attack their own blood. A person that has AB blood, having both antigens on the red blood cells, will not have any antibodies. If they had one or the other or both, then of course it would attack their own blood, and our bodies will not produce antibodies that will attack ourselves. A person with O blood has no antigens on the red blood cell surface, so they are going to have both antibodies. It's not going to harm the host's blood because there are no antigens for those antibodies to attack. So what would happen if a person with type A blood who has the B antibodies in the plasma was given type B blood? Let's say a transfusion was given to this person and they were given type B blood. Well, the antibodies that are present in the recipient would attack that type B blood, and it would cause the blood to clump together, which is called agglutination. This blood would agglutinate, and basically what happens is the red blood cells are going to clump. It's going to cause clogging and clotting within the body and possibly cause death. This is not the same as coagulation that we saw when blood clots. This is something completely different. This is an abnormal clumping of red blood cells when they are attacked by antibodies, and you can see how the antibodies hold these red blood cells together. So what kind of blood can you receive if you have type O blood? Then of course you have both antibodies, and so you have antibodies that will attack A and B antigens. So anything that has A or B in it you would attack. So type A blood, type B blood, type AB blood, all those you would attack and you would cause them to agglutinate. The only type of blood that a person that's type O could receive would be type O blood. If you have type A blood, of course you have type B antibodies, so anything that has B in it you would attack if you had type A blood. So you would attack type B blood and you would attack AB blood. A person that has A blood can be given type A or type O. These antibodies, which would attack anything with B in it, would not attack O because there are no antigens at all to attack. If you have type B blood, that means you have A antibodies. That means anything with A in it you would attack. So type A blood or type AB blood, both you would attack, but you could receive B blood or you could receive O blood. Again, O blood has no antigens to attack, and so it's safe to give somebody O blood. Finally, if you have AB blood, that means you have no antibodies whatsoever, so your blood will not attack any of the bloods. So you could be given type O, type A, B, or AB, no problem whatsoever. So in a nutshell, type O blood is considered the universal donor because it's not going to cause a reaction with anybody's blood since there are no antigens on the surface of the red blood cells. So this kind of blood can be given to anyone. The universal recipient is AB. Since they have no antibodies, they're not going to attack anybody's blood, and so it makes no difference what kind of blood is given to AB. It is a universal recipient. Alright, the second type of antigen that can be on red blood cells is the Rh antigen. And in this case, you either have the Rh antigen or you don't. If you do have it, you're Rh positive. If you don't, you're Rh negative. Now, unlike the ABO system, there are no antibodies produced by our bodies in either case. You would think that in this situation antibodies would be produced, but in the Rh system, for some reason, antibodies are not produced in either case. As far as genetically, the gene for Rh factor is a dominant gene, and you can again be homozygous, where you would have two alleles for Rh factor, or you could have one allele and the recessive for negative. Both of these would result in Rh positive, and if you have two recessive alleles, you would be Rh negative. Alright, so how does the Rh factor come into play? The biggest issue with Rh factor comes during childbirth. About 85% of the population is Rh positive. Only about 15% are Rh negative. So here we have a situation that could result in a problem. If mother is Rh negative and father is Rh positive, either homozygous or heterozygous, could they have a baby that is Rh positive? And the answer, of course, is yes. Dad could give his positive allele for Rh factor to the baby. So if mom is negative and baby is positive, then we could potentially have a problem. Now the problem doesn't develop on the first baby. If this is our Rh negative mom and this is our first Rh positive baby, during delivery some of baby's blood will mix with the mother's blood, and mom will subsequently develop Rh positive antibodies after the delivery of the first baby. So now she has Rh positive antibodies in her system, which she didn't have before. This baby was born just fine because mom did not have any antibodies at the time of the delivery. But if she has a second baby that is Rh positive, now she has antibodies that will actually attack the baby. And this attack will occur during pregnancy and could actually kill the baby if the reaction is strong enough. So again, first baby that's Rh positive is going to be okay, but mom is going to develop antibodies after that. If the second baby is Rh negative, that's not going to be an issue because the Rh antibodies are not going to attack Rh negative. It's the next Rh positive baby that comes along that will be the issue. This baby will be attacked by the mother's blood and could potentially seriously harm the baby or even destroy the baby. Alright, so what is actually happening when mom's antibodies attack baby's blood? The term for it is called hemolysis, and this is going to cause ultimately a breakdown of the red blood cells. After they clump and agglutinate together, they're going to be destroyed by our immune system. It's going to dump massive amounts of hemoglobin into the plasma, which can damage the organs. This particular disease is called erythroblastosis fetalis, and as I mentioned, it can cause death possibly, or at least severe anemia and or jaundice. Fortunately now we're able to take care of this condition. There is a drug that is given to the mother called Rhogam shortly after the delivery of her Rh positive baby. And Rhogam are basically antibodies that will destroy the fetal cells that have gotten into her circulation very quickly, so that her body is not able, or just does not elicit an immune response from being exposed to these Rh factors, because they're destroyed so quickly. Alright, so now let's look at how do we go about actually determining our blood type. How is it done? Basically what you're going to do is you're going to take a couple of drops of your blood, and you're going to put one drop here and one drop here on a slide. And right here we're just checking for our ABO blood typing. If you were checking for Rh factors, well, you would have a third drop. On one drop of your blood, you're going to place antibodies A, and on the other drop you're going to place antibodies B. And so antibody A, of course, would react with the A antigen. So if you had type A blood, this would react with it, causing it to clump. This would not react if you had type A blood, and so this side would stay homogeneous. So if the side that received the A drop started to clump, that would indicate you had type A blood. On the flip side, if the B drop clumped, that would indicate you had the B antigen and you had type B blood. If both drops clumped, that means you had the A antigen and the B antigen, and that would indicate you had type AB blood. And if neither drop clumped, then that would indicate that you did not have the A antigen or the B antigen, and therefore you had type O blood. Okay. All right, I hope that's helpful to you, and if you have any questions, feel free to send them to me via My Big Campus, or bring your questions to class. Have a great day.